Are you a real estate investor looking to sharpen your skills or a newbie looking to become one? You're in the right place. Welcome to Where Should I Invest? Real Estate Investing in Canada with your host, Sarah Larbi.
Welcome back to Where Should I Invest? I'm Sarah Larbi and you are back for another great episode. And today's guest is Sean Cooper, who you might know him from having paid off his mortgage in a record amount of time. He wrote a book about it. All the information is on the show notes and we're going to be speaking as well. He is a mortgage broker and has helped a lot of people as well get their mortgages paid down and to be able to retire early. There's lots of different options that you can do it. You can do it as an investor, investing in real estate. And his way, how he did it himself, is that he just got rid of his mortgage payment altogether. So we have a great discussion. I hope you guys enjoy the podcast. And don't forget the Burr Freedom Community. You guys can join at sarahlarbi.com and click the Burr Freedom Community there, and you will learn all about it. So I hope you guys enjoy this podcast and see you next week. Sean, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hi, Sarah. It's great to be back. It's a pleasure to speak with you and your audience today.
Awesome. Yeah, you were on my show. I mean, I want to say it was probably about a year ago and you shared some great insights. So welcome back. For the audience that's listening and that may not have heard you the first time around, what's a 30,000 foot bio of what you do and who you are?
30,000 foot bio. I've never heard that term, but that's
30,000 foot view.
Interesting term.
Bio. Just like overview.
Sure, sounds good. So I'll just give you the Coles Notes version, as I like to say. So I always wanted to be a homeowner growing up, like perhaps when people were when Canadians were children, like they wanted to be an astronaut or a nurse or whatnot, but I wanted to be a homeowner, as lame as it was. And just my parents instilled the importance of home ownership in me growing up. Like even when they unfortunately split up, they still managed to be able to both be homeowners themselves, which was quite inspirational. And they definitely considered having a home as the most important thing for our family, having a roof over our heads. So that kind of instilled the importance in home ownership in me. And as soon as I got my first job, I started saving towards eventually buying a property. And then throughout college and university, I was working several jobs and I managed to graduate debt free and start continue saving the down payments. And then I got my first job and really ramped up the savings at that point in time. I was doing side hustle work as a freelance writer, and then ended up buying my house back in August 2012 in Toronto and wanted to pay off my mortgage as quickly as possible. So fast forward about 3 years and I've managed to pay off my mortgage in my 30-year mortgage in only 3 years. And basically it was by living frugally and not going on any major trips during that time, and also lived in the basement and rented out the upstairs of my house, and of course did the side hustle stuff that enabled me to double my income outside of my full-time job. So all that combined, I was able to pay off my mortgage in a little over 3 years. I had a mortgage burning party, and then that got covered on CBC, and CBC was interested in me writing a book. I just kind of floated the idea and the reporters seemed pretty interested in it. So I decided to write a book just because it got so much attention and so many people read it online. So released the book a year and a half later and sold thousands of copies. And then people were still reaching out to me and wanted help with their mortgage. So I have a background in financial industry of over 10 years. So decided to leave my full-time job in pension consulting and become a mortgage broker. And I've been doing that the last couple of years, and it's been so rewarding to be able to give back to Canadians and be able to help them hands-on with their mortgage. So that's kind of my story in a nutshell.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing. So Burn Your Mortgage is the title of your book, and it's, Indigo or Amazon. I mean, you guys can find it. So you're essentially, you took a 30-year mortgage essentially and did what you needed to do to pay it down. So a lot of this show is about investing, but you're doing something a little bit different in the sense that you're taking your own primary residence and you're going to say, I'm going to be able to have that freedom early. I'm just going to have very little expenses essentially for my living expenses. So how do I do that? And obviously your biggest payments is your mortgage. So you've been able to do that in 3 years. And then you had the mortgage burning party, which I think is awesome. Because I want to do a retirement party when stuff lifts and stuff like that. But so can I ask how big your mortgage was? Like was it a $500,000 mortgage? Was it a $200,000 mortgage? Are you able to share?
Well, home prices back in, happy to do that. It's all, if you Google my name, it's all in the World Wide Web. So back in August 2012, home prices were more modest in Toronto. You could buy a home for under $500,000 then. So I ended up buying my home for $425,000, and I made a sizable $170,000 down payment just through, all the things that I mentioned, like saving a ton of my income and living frugally, and that left me with a mortgage of $255,000. And even back then, that was a big amount for me. Like, that's $250,000 for one person to handle, and especially when my parents, maybe their mortgages were like $100,000 or $150,000, and I had all that debt to my name. Interest rates were a lot lower compared to when they had mortgages, but I just didn't want to have that debt hanging over my head for the next 30 years. And I wanted to mainly free up the cash flow as well, just in case, something happened with my full-time job, just so that I wouldn't be stressed out, because that was definitely an area of stress with my parents growing up, worrying about paying the mortgage. So I just wanted to kind of get that over with. So yeah, those are kind of the details there.
That's cool. And now you've been in the mortgage industry as a mortgage broker for how many years?
I've been in the industry for a couple of years, but I've definitely been following the industry very closely. I've been writing about the industry for pretty much a decade now, and interviewing various mortgage brokers, for stories that I was writing in the past, as well as I've just generally been interested in the industry and always been writing articles on mortgages and reading up on the latest rule changes. So this isn't something necessarily new to me. I wasn't a broker before, but it's just kind of taking the next natural step in my career, if that makes sense.
Okay, cool. And what were you doing for work, as a job prior to burning your mortgage?
Yes, great question. So I worked in the pension consulting industry for almost a decade, and I enjoy my job there. I could have just pretty much worked there until retirement and everything would have went well, but I wanted to help Canadians more hands-on with their mortgages, and I just couldn't, there's only so many hours in the day, as well as it didn't give me the freedom that I wanted. Pretty much from January to June, it was insanely busy, and I couldn't take any vacation during that time, and I only had 3 weeks vacation, and I wanted to be able to travel, and I just wasn't able to do that. I stayed there another couple years after I paid off my mortgage, and I literally maybe took a weekend trip here or there, but I was barely doing any traveling at all. I didn't go to Europe or anything. So that's kind of what, being able to help Canadians with their mortgages, of course, played the most important part of my decision, but just having more flexibility in terms of my schedule and being able to work anywhere, and having that flexibility in the schedule, that definitely played into my decision of leaving my full-time job a couple years ago, 2.5 years ago.
Okay, cool. Sounds good. And so I mean, obviously the freedom thing is a big thing, and then being able to do what you want, where you want, how you want, etc. is important. That's awesome. So when you, I guess, finished paying off your mortgage and you had a mortgage burning party, did you retire at the same time that you were done essentially your last payment? Is that what happened? Or walk me through, how the retirement and the mortgage burning party all kind of came about.
Sure. So I guess I just want to understand your definition of retirement, because everyone seems to have a different definition, and then there's financial freedom as well. When I hear, don't necessarily consider myself retired. When I hear retirement, I kind of think of stopping work, not working at all, not doing any side projects, kind of kind of like my parents, where they don't work at all and
Right.
enjoy their
you know what?
days. I'm certainly maybe I'm working harder now than I was before, so I don't necessarily consider myself retired, but like I do know that like I could literally stop working tomorrow and I would be fine for the rest of my life from a financial freedom standpoint. So I guess I would consider myself achieving financial freedom rather than retirement. What's your definition,
Yeah,
Sarah?
no, I think that's like actually really interesting, because even though I'm retired from the corporate world or the job world, like you, I don't want to do nothing, right? I don't want to be just sitting on the beach. I mean, for a while it's nice, but like over time it gets boring, right? So I think it's just a matter of like, okay, now that I have all this time and the freedom, and financially, if I stopped, I'd be okay, but I still want to get to that next level. I still want to be productive. I still want to be able to do some really cool stuff. And some of it will probably bring some extra income. And so if I can take my income from X and even make it higher, like, even better, why not, right? So I think that's a great point. I think it's financial freedom in a sense. But it's not retirement per se. And maybe somebody's thinking like, oh, she's just gonna do nothing for the rest of her life, or he's gonna do nothing for the rest of his life. And I shouldn't say nothing, but like play cards or whatever people that are like fully, I guess, retired in that sense would do. But yeah, you're right. Like it probably is a different definition, right? Like retired from the corporate world or the job world is one thing. And if you're financially free where you don't have to do it, but you choose to, I think that's a different thing too. That's like, because that's what I want to do, right? I still want to be doing awesome things and figuring out ways to take, exponential steps to, create even more wealth and create even more fun and create even more, like just adventures in my life regardless. So what about you?
I'm just curious, a follow-up question to that. Like, do you ever foresee yourself fully retiring, like full stop, where you're not working at all? Like, to be honest, I'm not sure I would ever want to do that. Like, I'm somebody that enjoys what I do, so maybe I wouldn't work as many hours in the future, but I don't really see myself like officially retiring according to the definition. Like, how about yourself?
Yeah, I tend to agree, because even like I was talking to, because I have a couple people I hired as coaches, and just different people, not necessarily real estate coaches, but and they were like, how many hours do you want to work, or like or like do you not want to work? And I'm just like, I'd like to at least do 3 hours a day, regardless, right? 3 hours a day, and then the rest of the day you can I don't know, go work out, just different activities, but like it's still an important thing, and it's work, quote unquote, because I don't really consider podcasting work, right? But it's going to be like something that I'm still going to be doing. The right club, like that kind of stuff. It's, I mean, quote unquote work. But I don't want to do nothing and be ever fully retired, probably even when I'm 80, like if I can make it that long, right? Like if I live to 80, I'm probably still going to want to do something productive, something with goals that I can achieve, right? And I think there's just some people are wired that way, and some people might be totally cool with like Matt, my spouse, he may be totally cool with like fully retiring. But I think it's just not in my DNA.
I agree. Like, I don't know, I would enjoy it for a bit, but I would probably get bored pretty quickly. Like, I just think about all the opportunities that I've been fortunate enough to have. Like, I spoke on a panel a couple years back, where like a former finance minister of Canada was there, and former conservative leader of Ontario, Tim Mack, was on the panel, and Patty Lovett-Reed from BNN was there. And if I had just kind of stopped doing what I was doing, I don't. If I didn't keep my name out there, I don't think I would have been invited to that panel. And before COVID, I was doing speaking events as well. And again, if I just kind of full stop retired and didn't keep doing that, I don't think these great opportunities would come up, as well as just the rewarding feeling of being able to help my clients with their mortgage and hearing that I've made a difference in their life. Like, I definitely enjoy that. It would be nice to have like work less hours in the future, but I'm still young and full of energy, and certainly with COVID, it's not like you can go out and do much these days anyway. So might as well keep myself busy is my attitude right now.
Yeah, absolutely. It makes sense. And, and I think that it's about, and you said it, it's about like balancing or creating balance in your life, right? Where it's not just like go and go and go and go, but then there are moments that you can say like, I'm just going to go for an hour walk in the middle of the day because I can, or I'm going to pick up this really cool like new hobby because I can in the middle of the day, or I'm going to do absolutely nothing but just watch a movie tonight and not have to stress out because I can, right? So I think it's about balance and just figuring out what you enjoy doing now, and enjoying the process, right? Whether it's 3 hours of work a day or 4 hours, or I don't know, however you guys want to schedule it, structure it. But I still think it's just about creating balance and creating new goals and finding fun as well in your life, because I think a lot of us, especially in Canada, I don't think we have enough fun. It feels like it's always like go 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 and work work work.
Yeah, maybe not as bad as the Japanese culture. They work very hard there, but certainly I think we fall somewhere in the middle of the spectrum between like Europe and Japan, similar to the US. But yeah, I mean, definitely just picturing myself doing my like corporate job for the next 30 years and only getting my like 2 or 3 weeks vacation and having to travel the world based on that. It's just not enough time. So that definitely was what encouraged me to like leave the corporate world. Like perhaps if employers are more flexible going forward, and like I would think that more people would be allowed to work from home going forward. Maybe people can have more freedom. They can travel and work at the same time, but I guess we'll wait and see how that all plays out. I don't think many people are traveling right now with the current situation.
No, and actually I wanted to ask you this question because you're kind of in a similar boat as I am, in the sense that you're creating your schedule how you want. What are some of the hobbies that you're I know travel is like a big thing of mine, like it sounds like it's a big thing of yours as well, but like you said, we can't do it right now. But what are you finding that you're enjoying with the time that we have right now, whether it's a hobby or like fun in your life? Like what are some ideas that you that or things that you do?
Yes, well, I certainly had a ton of travel plans. Like I was planning to go to Europe and visit the Scandinavian countries and just go to as many countries as possible because it's so easy to travel in Europe. Like you can literally hop in a train and go a couple like countries over. But unfortunately, all those plans were canceled. Was fortunate enough to go to Mardi Gras in New Orleans before the whole pandemic situation. But yeah, definitely haven't been able to take all the trips that I wanted to in the rest of 2020, and it doesn't look like that's going to happen until 2021. So I have been like, I watched a video from Rick Mercer, who used to have his own show on CBC, and he just kind of encouraged Canadians to travel within our country and support the local economy. So that's what I've been trying to do, because I just see so many business owners like in my neighborhood and elsewhere where a business that has been open for many years suddenly shuts down because of COVID. It's just so tough, especially restaurants and stuff like that. So I've just been trying to support the local businesses and travel within Canada as well. So, visiting places that are nearby like Ottawa and Montreal. I mean, maybe it's not as exciting as Paris and London, but I'm just trying to make the best of the current situation. So I've just been traveling within Canada when it's safe to do so, and just reading books and personal development, and I just try to like, what I found for me was that I was kind of checking the news a lot at the beginning of this, but I've definitely made a conscious effort to only check the news like maybe twice a day, because I just felt like it, like, I don't know if the best way to say is, but it was just kind of a bit depressing to like, check it every hour and see like all the bad news. I mean, it seems like there's way too much bad news out there. So I've just been trying to limit like the news like a couple times a day, and I've definitely found that that's helped me have a more positive outlook there. So for anyone that's feeling down about the current situation, I would just encourage you to like try to limit your exposure to the news. Like definitely check it to stay up to date on things, but rather than checking it every hour, half hour, just try to do it like once or twice a day. And yeah, I found that that's done wonders for me, and I'm not feeling as stressed as I was before. What about
Yeah,
yourself, Sarah?
that's a good point with limiting the news, because it's all what's in between your ears, right? What like you feed your brain and information that you absorb. I think it's gonna create your mindset and it's gonna create your mood. So I agree. For me, I mean, I've done some like we're gonna do some like lunch dates with the girls, because ironically, I'm like out of my friends, like most of them are already in my spot. So I was
Oh,
probably
really?
one of the last ones that had a full-time job where we couldn't just meet on a random like Tuesday for lunch or something, or brunch or
Are
what.
your friends like super successful or entrepreneurs?
A
Or
lot of them
uh,
are real estate investors as well. Like I have friends that have jobs too, but like a lot of my close friends that I hang out with quite a bit are real estate investors, and
Interesting.
so they can create their schedules as well, which is cool. So we're gonna do some things, and I was looking at like a fencing class with one of my friends, Jen. We're looking into that, or rock climbing. I used to teach long ago. I've lost a lot of it, but I used to teach American Sign Language. So I want to get back into it, not the teaching part, but just like refreshing my skills and learning, because I think that would be cool. And then like just like reading and reading some cool books as well. So my whole thing with the travel at this point, we're probably not traveling until things kind of resume to somewhat normal, but we've got the cottage. So the cottage and having some friends over at the cottage is always a fun thing. So I'm structuring some of that, and looking at some different fitness things and different workouts, whether it's like fitness boxing or whatnot. So, but I'm excited. I'm excited regardless. There's never the perfect time. I just got to make work with what we have, right? So Sean, if somebody wanted to follow your footsteps, I'm thinking a lot of people that are listening to this are probably thinking, okay, what if I just paid down my primary house, but I still had investments with mortgages on them because the tenants are paying them off? What are your thoughts about that? So like, just like, let's just say an investor has got like 5 or 6 properties. Is it wise for them to pay down their own principal residence if they want to follow your footsteps, but maybe just leave mortgages on the rentals because they cash flow hopefully with tenants?
Yeah, that's a great question, Sarah. I mean, I guess it all depends on what you want to achieve in the future. Like for me, it really wasn't my plan to own several rental properties. Like definitely in the future, perhaps that's something that I would like to do. Like I definitely want to hold on to my current property, like in the future. And if I was to get married down the line, I would like to hold on to this property and turn it into a rental property. So certainly plan to do that eventually in the future, but I don't really have a specific timeline on that. I think, it really depends on the individual. I see no issue with having mortgages on properties as long as you have a game plan in terms of like having sufficient, as long as these properties are cash flow positive and you have a way of paying down these mortgages. I have no issue with it at all. I mean, for me, my goal was to pay down like the mortgage on my primary residence as quickly as possible, but I definitely have heard a lot of people argue that that didn't necessarily make sense. And strategies that you've spoken about in the past where you can take equity out of your primary residence and use that towards a down payment of a rental property. Like at least by paying down your primary residence, you you can free up more equity if you plan to buy future properties. So yeah, I mean, I guess it really depends on like your personal situation and based on where rates are at right now, like I really don't see like unless you are like you can't even sleep at night and the mortgage debt is stressing you out that much. I think it can make sense to pay down, but with rates as low as they are right now, I really find it hard to argue that you should be making like extra lump sum payments against your mortgage. I really think that you can like get a better rate of return elsewhere, whether it's buying a rental property or investing the money. So if I was in the current situation that we're in now and I had like a mortgage rate in the low 2s or even below 2%, I wouldn't be in any hurry to pay it off, and I would be using the money elsewhere, whether it's for a rental property or investing the money in. And that's similar to what I'm doing now. Like once I paid off my primary residence, I didn't just go like crazy with the money and start spending it. I took that cash flow and got caught up on my RSP and tax-free savings account, and I like basically split the money that was going towards my mortgage and have it going into 3 different like accounts, like the RSP, TFSA, and a non-registered account. So if you do manage to pay off your mortgage, I would encourage you to you can certainly have fun with your money, but you just need to figure out what to do with that extra cash flow. So yeah, I chose to use that towards saving and just being able to have that much more of a financial nest egg. But for other people, they might want to grow their real estate portfolio and buy rental properties. So I guess just figure out what you want to do, and then you can kind of put a game plan in place and figure out the steps that you need to take in order to achieve that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's interesting. So what was your interest rate on yours when you were paying it down fast?
Yeah, it wasn't as low as we're seeing today. Like these mortgage rates are, I received the emails as a broker. I was surprised how low they are. Like we've never seen rates like this before. So I thought I had an amazing mortgage rate. Like my parents were telling me about double-digit mortgage rates back in the 80s, like almost 20%. And I don't think we'll ever see that again. Hopefully not. But my mortgage rate was something like a little over 3% back then, and I thought that was a good rate because my parents were paying like 5-6% when they had a mortgage a few years earlier. But yeah, I'm not beating myself up. Like I'm glad that I paid off my mortgage, but certainly with the rates as low as they are today, it's really hard to argue that it makes sense to make extra payments against your mortgage unless it's really keeping you up at night, because the rates are literally so low. So yeah, if I was in the current situation now, I probably wouldn't be paying down my mortgage super fast.
It is interesting for sure. I mean, at some point rates are going to go back up, right? Like they are abnormally low right now. I mean, give it 3, 4, 5 years or whatnot, and they might come back up. But I mean, double digits is probably out the window at this point. Like if that happens, then we've got bigger problems, and a lot of people are going to have, most everyone's going to have problems. So I can't see them necessarily going back to double digits, but they're not going to be at the low that they are today. So you mentioned lump sums. Is that how you paid down your mortgage? Like, did you have a variable rate? Do you have a fixed rate? Did you have like those like prepayment penalties, like uncapped? Like, how did you set it up so that like you basically look at your mortgage and like, decided that you wanted to pay it down in 3 years? Like, what was the actual process for you?
Great question. So the main way that I did it was through lump sum payments, because when you make a lump sum payment on your mortgage, 100% of that goes towards the principal. So, you make $1,000 or $2,000 lump sum payment, and that knocks like $1,000 or $2,000 off the balance. So that's how you can really like get your mortgage paid off quickly. And I decided to go I was looking at mortgage options, and my first instinct was to go to my local bank branch, and I visited that first, but then I spoke with I enjoyed reading about mortgages in the past, and I heard about a mortgage broker. So I called up a mortgage broker and just wanted to learn about different mortgage options, and I found out about a category of lenders called monoline lenders, or as I like to call them, wholesale lenders. And these lenders deal directly through mortgage brokers. They don't have branches on every corner and the same brand recognition of the banks, but because of that, they're every bit as stable, because they have to abide by the same rules, but they just don't have all that overhead costs. So they typically have more competitive rates, and more importantly, they have lower mortgage penalty calculations, especially on the fixed rate mortgage side, and better prepayment privileges. Because I heard with some of the banks, for example, you can only make lump sum payments once a year on your anniversary date, and that's way too restrictive in my opinion. So my lender let me make lump sum payments all throughout the year. As long as it was at least $100, I could make lump sum payments on any of my regular payment dates throughout the year. So by going with a monoline or wholesale lender that had a flexible prepayment privileges, that enabled me to pay off my 30-year mortgage in only 3 years. So certainly if you are looking to pay down your mortgage sooner, it help like Canadians seem to want the lowest mortgage rate, and that's totally understandable. But certainly, a mortgage is about more than just the rate. The penalty as well as the prepayments matter too, depending on what you're looking to accomplish. So it certainly doesn't hurt to speak with your bank, but I would certainly look at other options out there. Speak with a mortgage broker, and they can ask you the right questions in terms of what you're looking for in a mortgage, and at least you can make an informed decision. Because yeah, if I had just gone to my local bank, I wouldn't have discovered all the other options out there that my mortgage broker introduced me to, and wouldn't have been able to pay off my mortgage super quickly if I had just gone with one of the banks. So certainly glad that I had a great mortgage broker who provided value and helped give me strategies to pay down my mortgage sooner. So yeah, that's how I did it in a nutshell, through the lump sum payments mainly.
Nice. Awesome. Thanks for sharing. So Sean, the next part of the podcast is our lightning round. I'm going to ask you a series of a few questions. You're going to give me the first answer that comes to mind. I'm going to switch them up a little bit for you. Are you ready?
Sure. Let's go.
All right. Question number 1. What is your favorite book about business or mortgages or whatnot? Usually it's a real estate book, but it doesn't have to necessarily just be about real estate.
Gosh, you've put me on the spot. Can I say a personal finance book?
Sure.
I would say the first book that comes to mind, probably a common answer, but I would say The Wealthy Barber Returns was a good book. I like the original Wealthy Barber, but it just kind of like helped me figure out, like, aim to save at least 10% of my income. It had some basic rules like live within your means. I just referred back to that book a lot, and it definitely helped me figure out how I want to live my life. So I would say that's one of the most influential books. But yeah, I've read many good books out there, but that's the first one that comes to mind.
All right, cool. Next question. I don't know if you're a podcast listener, but if you are, what is your favorite or most listened to podcast?
That's a good question. I usually listen to real estate podcasts. Sarah, you've had some great podcast episodes yourself, so I would say in the real estate realm, it would probably be your podcast that I listen to. But honestly, like, I have certain like people that I follow in the media, like Scott McGillivray from Income Property. So when I see that he's a guest on a certain podcast, I'll try to listen to it. But really, any podcast in the real estate space, I try to listen to, because even the smartest person on real estate can learn a new thing. So yeah, mainly just trying to listen to real estate podcasts when I'm cooking or at the gym, and rather than just listening to music, I try to be as productive as possible.
Okay, awesome. Next question. I know we talked a little bit about it, but you could always give a different answer or the same if you want. What do you do for fun when you are not doing things around mortgages or work, aka quote unquote work?
Well, on a Friday night, I like to review amortization summaries. No, I'm just kidding. When I'm trying to unwind, prior to COVID, I definitely like going to the gym, and I was not really able to do that these days. But I just find like a good way to like unwind from things. It's just to get away from the news and turn off your electronics at the end of the night, and like go hiking. Like, I find that's a good way to relax. So I'm fortunate to be in a neighborhood where there's some good hiking trails here. So like, I find that's a good way to unwind at the end of a sometimes stressful day. So that's kind of what I've been doing lately. Unfortunately, no travel, hopefully in 2021, but we'll see.
All right, awesome. If you lost everything tomorrow and you had to start again, somehow your no mortgage property was no longer that, how would you start again?
Gosh, don't jinx me or something like that. Hopefully that never happens. But I mean, based on the skills that I've gotten over the years, I don't think that would be an issue. By start again, do you mean like I have to leave my current career and all that? How Would have started again. I mean, exactly. I
let's just say, I
lost all
don't
my
know,
financial assets.
you had, yeah, you lost all your finances, your money, your assets.
Well, I definitely think I have some decent skills that I've developed over the years. So I would just kind of keep my relationships strong and keep building relationships and looking for new projects to try to rebuild everything. I mean, I don't know about you, but I've definitely taken a big income hit this year because of COVID. Probably lost about 50% of my income, but at least I still have a roof over my head and I'm healthy. So I'm definitely counting my blessings. But yeah, I would just kind of um, at least I have like a supportive family to fall back on if that ever happened. So I don't think I would be out on the streets or anything like that. But yeah, I'm still working hard today, even though I don't have a mortgage. And I think that strong work ethic would be useful to help rebuild my finances if that ever happens. So, knock on wood that doesn't ever happen. But, I think I would be perfectly fine and could bounce back if that happened, as long as I'm not like 85 years old. I might not have as much energy at that age.
All right, awesome. And last question, if somebody has $50,000, how would you recommend they invest it or spend it?
Well, I'm more of a like saver or investor. So I mean, I don't see an issue with spending some of it and getting some enjoyment out of your money, but I may not spend the whole amount of the money. So I guess you just need to figure out what you want to achieve in the future, and like I definitely think that could be handy for a down payment for a primary residence if you don't own one, or a rental property. But you just have to ask yourself the right questions and make sure that's something that you want to do. I mean, it can be a great way to build wealth, but I guess you just have to figure out whether you're cut out to be a landlord or not. And you can be as much like hands-on or hands-off as you want to be. I mean, you can hire a property manager to help you manage the process. Like my father didn't really enjoy being a landlord, and he kind of scared me away from it with his stories, but he like ran a rooming house back in the 70s. So I mean, I definitely think it has something to do with the way that he set up the rental property. Like I've done it properly and screen tenants, and have like long-term tenants, so I haven't ran into any issues. So yeah, I mean, real estate's a great way to build wealth. So I definitely consider investing some of that in real estate, but I would also make sure that I have a decent emergency fund, because when you're buying a property, things can go wrong and you don't want to be putting every single penny into the property. So yeah, I definitely think a good real estate is a good way to invest. And also, having liquid savings is important too. So, I just make sure that I have those two things covered. And, if real estate makes sense for me, I'd probably use that towards a property.
Okay, awesome. That was the lightning round. Sean, where can my listeners reach out and find out more about you?
Great. Well, thanks so much for having me on the show today. If you'd like to reach me, you can visit my website, burnyourmortgage.ca. Again, burnyourmortgage.ca, all one word. It's the same title of my book as well. And I'm an independent mortgage broker, so feel free to reach out. You can contact me on my website or call me at 647-867-3711. Again, 647-867-3711. And you can email me at sean@burnyourmortgage.ca. That's SEAN@burnyourmortgage.ca.
Awesome. Any final last words of advice?
I would just say, 2020 has been tough. So definitely try to hang in there. I think it's tough on all of us, but I'm definitely confident that 2021 will be a lot better. I'm certain that it's going to be the amazing year that 2020 was supposed to be. So if you're feeling down about the current situation, just try to turn off your phone and turn off the computer and limit your news intake, because yeah, it was definitely weighing on my spirits at the beginning of this. But just try to stay positive and think about all the things that you're fortunate for, like having a roof over your head, living in a great country like Canada. And I definitely realize this is a challenging time, but just focus on all the things that you have going for you. And I think things are going to be better in the future. So just try to stay positive, and I'm certain that 2021 is going to be a good year.
Thank you so much, Sean, for being on the show. It was a pleasure to have you back again.
Okay, thanks for having me. It was a pleasure speaking with you as well.
Thanks so much for listening to Where Should I Invest with your host, Sarah Larbi. Make sure to listen in next time. We'll catch you on the next episode of Where Should I Invest?